Yeah.
Things like that you can make mistakes on, but it's great to go and see places. I mean, even for this book, I live on the Upper East Side. This is on the Lower East Side. So it's a very different neighborhood, and it used to be not such a nice neighborhood for quite a long time with the park, was Needle Park.
Right.
And it's all different now. It's really...
it's gentrified.
Yes,
so
it's
much
gentrified.
of the city is gentrified now.
And it's people want to live there, and there's nice stores and parks and all of that. So
Well,
it's quite a difference.
We spoke about driving, but also in the city, if you're talking about New York City, most people take the subway. So I had to go in and I had to make sure I had the subway routes correct, the streets correct, because just like you said, if somebody from New York City is reading the book and you're saying something that, you know, the west side streets go east and the east side streets go whatever, you really need to do that.
You want to try and get it right if you
can.
can.
But you're doing mysteries, and mysteries always involve evidence and processing evidence and solving crimes. So that's forensics. So how do you get your information on forensics?
Kind of make it up.
Oh.
I'm sorry to
Can't
say
that to me. I taught forensic science. I could be your consultant.
She doesn't really delve into that aspect of things. You know, if in this book, she goes undercover and she's looking through files and she winds up finding things like that. And they can tell that she and Sully believe it wasn't a suicide because the victim was right-handed, but the wound was on the left-hand side, and he wouldn't have, you know...
That's a dead giveaway.
That kind of thing.
Pardon the pun.
Right. So I didn't really have to do a lot of forensic research. It wasn't like they were doing blood typing, and it wasn't CSI.
See, that's my forte. So how do you deal with all this blood and gore?
Well, I just sort of put it in there, and... You know, I mean, it's part of the story, and it's part of life. We have a lot of blood and gore and things that happen around us all the time that are not so pleasant. But I don't dwell on it in the book so much, you know.
Yeah.
Just kind of put the scene in that you need to write. I like to make it feel real, so I put that in and then, you know, move on from there.
Right, because some books really are, descriptions of scenes are so... horrendous, and I write for young people, so I do have murders in my book, and I do have mayhem, but I have to be careful how I couch that so that it's not too off-putting, too scary.
I don't really dwell on that aspect of it. Yes. You know, I like to think about a scene and how it's going to look and how it's going to sound. So I want my characters to have the right voice for their position in the book. And for, you know, and for what the action is. So they're upset if they see something, like Jude gets very upset when she finds the dead body. I mean, she's not expecting that. But I don't dwell on, I describe the scene a little bit, but I don't really dwell on that too much.
Right, yeah. Well, Agatha Christie, for instance, the grande dame of mystery, she pretty much poisoned most people.
Yeah.
And the reason why was interesting because Agatha Christie during World War I worked in a pharmacy in a hospital. And in those days, you didn't have pills coming from, you know, pharmaceutical companies. You pretty much had to mix up the medications yourself. So she learned all about poisons. And then when she started to write, she said, well, that'll be the best murder weapon because I know so much about it. And if you read her books, she goes from strychnine to belladonna to I forget what other poisons. It's always some poison. I can't think of too many of her stories where it's really bloody. And of course, she's the queen of cozies too. And cozies
exactly.
avoid
They're usually
that kind of stuff.
Right. They don't have the murder on the page. Or
everything is a clean murder.
I used poison in one of my stories, but I generally I change my method of murder.
Yeah, well, that's good. No, it's good. And you know, and I think people like different kinds of mysteries, and there are lots of different kinds of mysteries, and they like mysteries where you're really getting into the psychology of your main character and how they deal with the plot, and and they don't dwell on the forensic side of it. And then there are those like Patricia Cornwell, who her main character is a medical examiner, and everything is forensics. And so you go from, you know, those different kinds, and people will find the genre that they like.
Yeah, because
subgenre.
There's high-tech kind of things too. And
Computer crime.
Yeah, computer crimes. I mean, I would have to learn a lot more if I wanted
Me
to
too.
write something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with the other stuff, but not computers. And I'm thinking, well, it's funny you said that you wanted to be a spy, because I'm thinking of that kind of spy theme for a book. It's, you know, it's kind of timely, I think.
I think so, right?
So what do you want your readers to get out of your book?
Well, I want them to enjoy it, first of all, and you know, like the characters. And I'd like them really to relate to the characters. I really try hard to make them be like very believable. And the crimes that I talk about are kind of in our life now. I mean, there's fraud, there's murder, there's all kinds of things like that. So people see that in the paper and they deal with it on their own, you know, level. But I want them to get out of the book with this book, you know, that this is a crime that someone's helping solve, and she's a very nice person to do this. I mean, that's probably a sort of insipid word, but she works hard at her job, and she's a loyal friend, and I want them to see.
She's involved with the culture that she lives in.
Yes, she is, exactly.
Yeah.
And I want that to come across.
Yeah. What do you want to get out of it?
2 more books?
The TV series.
Oh, a TV. Oh, I would love to have a TV
Oh, me
series
too.
or a movie. I was trying to convince my publisher that it would be a great idea.
Yeah,
We're working on that.
Yeah, it's finding I don't know, do you go through a publisher, or do you have to, I did a little thing from my authors group. I belong to Long Island Authors Group, and I did a little talk about book to movie and how you go about doing that. And
Well,
again,
I will consult you.
It's finding another agent, you know,
Yes.
or an agent who has connections with producers.
Well, my publisher is Clay Stafford from Clay Stafford Books, and he has experience with that. I'm in a group of a few authors of the first books he's publishing, but he's had that other experience. But it is a lot of money to do it, so you would need to find backers.
I know. I find the whole idea daunting, but who knows? Who knows what I'll do? Where do your books sell best?
They sell best on Amazon, basically. The first series, the Laurel and Helen series, were print on demand and ebook. And so they really weren't in bookstores, so they sold on Amazon. This book will be in bookstores as well as
that should
on
be
Amazon.
interesting to see how that
Yeah,
compares.
and Barnes and Noble and you know the other platforms.
Right. So, words of advice.
Don't give up.
You know, all authors say that.
I mean, you shouldn't. If you really have this desire to write a book, you should work on it, and you should do it. And I think also, don't give up, and also read a lot of other authors, especially in the genre that you'd like to write in. See what they're doing, what you like, what you think works, what you think is dumb or not working right. You know.
Right. Writing styles. I think when I read, I look primarily at the writing styles, and people don't really understand. When you give advice to people, people say, "Oh, I'd like to write a book about this, that, or the other thing." They don't understand what a long, involved process it is, and how hard it is, and how much it takes out of you.
It's very hard, you know that. And it's not just writing the book. That's hard. But I think it's harder after.
Oh, yeah,
After you get it published, or you're almost getting it published, the edits, and then all the promotion and all those things to get people to notice it, what you have to do. That's a whole job in and of itself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I find that myself, and hopefully I will see you on Channel 2 or 4,
It could be on the news.
on the Rocks Mysteries. Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, it would be great.